Hello and welcome to Business Standard Views of the Week. What does the weakening of consumer sentiments in December tell us about India's economic recovery? Does India need protection from the soon to be set up Data Protection Authority? And what does the government need to do to achieve its disinvestment target? Subscribe to Business Standard and read this week's top opinion pieces to find out. We start this episode with an analysis of India's consumer sentiments in December 2021. The index of consumer sentiments rose by 2.1% in October and then by 1.2% in November. Even the slowed down growth helped the index cross 60 for the first time since April 2020. The index was at 60.1 in November 2021. In December, it is seen losing ground. In his latest column, Mahesh Vyas writes that in the first week of December, the index fell 10.9% to 54.8. This was its worst weekly fall in over a year. At 55.1, the weekly index of consumer sentiments for the week ended December 26th was lower than it was in any week of November and in most weeks of October. In 2021, the growth in the proportion of households reporting an improvement in incomes hasn't translated into a proportionate increase in households reporting an inclination to buy consumer durables. This derailment poses a challenge to India's economic recovery process. Besides consumer sentiments, the government will likely fall short of its disinvestment target. Even as the third quarter of the fiscal year has come to an end, the government has raised only about Rs 9,300 crores, compared to the target of Rs 1.75 trillion. The final number for the year, to a large extent, will depend on the Life Insurance Corporation's listing. It's not clear at the moment if this will happen by March end. In his latest column, Rajesh Kumar indicates that the overall performance of the government on the disinvestment front is particularly disappointing. Going forward, he writes, it will be critical that disinvestment is not approached only as a source of revenue to bridge the fiscal gap in a particular year. Kumar suggests that the government should announce a medium term target for attaining the stated policy objective of reducing its presence, except in a select few firms in strategic areas. This selected list should also be made public to provide more clarity. Further, the government should have a rolling list of PSCs to be disinvested or privatized, at least over the next 3 years. India's post pandemic medium term growth trajectory, to a large extent, will depend on how government finances are managed, and the disinvestment program will be critical in this context. Let's move on to an upcoming legislation that seems to have moved away from its original agenda. The proposed Data Protection Bill recommends the setting up of a Data Protection Authority, which is empowered to take steps to protect the interests of individuals, prevent the misuse of personal data, and ensure compliance with the bill. However, in his latest column, KP Krishnan explains that the DPA, which is envisaged as the principal legislator for regulation of data protection, has also emerged as the first level adjudicator for violations of the very legislation that it wrote and inquired into. It should be clear now, even to the layperson, that the DPA is more than a department. It is a mini state, as it is empowered to legislate, implement the legislation, as well as adjudicate on disputes with external agents on the very legislation that it writes and enforces. But we all thought that the principle of separation of powers and checks and balances were part of the basic structure of our constitution. To this end, Krishnan writes that the government would do well to develop a comprehensive framework for the governance and accountability of the DPA to guard individuals and enterprises from this omnipotent mini state. Now, let's look at whether India's banking sector has been able to weather the COVID 19 pandemic. According to the latest report on trend and progress of banking in India by the Reserve Bank of India, the improvement in gross non performing assets or GNPAs that started in 2019-20 continued in 2020-21. GNPA as a percentage of total advances for the sector came down from 8.2% in 2019-20 to 7.3% in 2020-21. However, in an editorial, Business Standard explains that these headline numbers may not be revealing the true picture. As underscored by the RBI, the primary source of lowering GNPA has been write-offs over the past several years. This suggests that banks would consistently need more capital. Further, credit growth remains tepid, which shows the impact of the pandemic on aggregate demand. This will affect the main source of income for the banking sector. A new variant of the virus has again increased uncertainty, and states have started imposing restrictions on public movement. Another setback to economic revival would increase stress and adversely affect the banking system. As we continue to talk about India's economic recovery from the pandemic induced slowdown, questions are being raised about the methods of calculating the gross domestic product or GDP, one of the principal figures for measuring economic growth. A recent presentation by former Chief Economic Advisor Arvind Subramaniam and former IMF representative in India Josh Fellman asserted that GDP might in fact have contracted in the pre pandemic year of 2019-20. They argue that what is being observed is the collapse in India's growth based on various indicators, such as the investments shown by Index of Industrial Production, consumption, imports, tax revenues, and bank credit. On the other hand, former chief statistician Pranab Sen pointed out that the new GDP calculation followed global best practices in seeking to build up a picture of GDP from value-added calculations rather than through accounting for actual physical output growth. In an editorial, Business Standard explains that India cannot afford basic questions about its most cited data series to linger for this long. It is incumbent upon the National Statistical Office and its nodal ministry to take effective steps to address these questions. Restoring faith in these statistics is the necessary first step towards the formulation of an appropriate post-pandemic economic policy. Finally, we bring this episode of BS Views to a close with the summation of several positive developments in 2021 that India can take heart from as we welcome the new year. In his latest column, T.N. Menon hails India's sporting achievements, with our richest medal haul at the Olympics coming this year. There have been double-digit increases in Sensex values for 3 years running, the only such period since the financial crisis of 2008. Further, the country's wealth of entrepreneurial talent in emerging sectors such as electric vehicles, green energy, electronic goods manufacture and retailing, and tech-driven unicorns herald a bright future for India Inc. Menon also hails the government's ability to target welfare benefits at scale by leveraging technology, for which credit must go to Prime Minister Narendra Modi. The growing base for indigenous defense production and long-haul investments in the country's physical infrastructure also deserve praise. In a country that is often or usually focused on the ways in which it falls short, the start of a year is a good time to remind oneself of such positives.
If you like this video, share it and subscribe to Business Standard. For more news, views and insights, log on to www.business-standard.com. Do also follow us on YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, Telegram and LinkedIn.